Hello everyone and welcome to Sipz and Stories. My name is Elizabeth and in today's video I will be doing my holiday TBR. I have compiled a list of books that I have put together over the last couple of months going to the bookstore and online of just some fun Christmassy books that I was waiting to read at this time of year. All of these books are new to me books, so I will be reading them for the first time this year. If you'd like to check out some of my favorite holiday reads, I will link my video that I did last Christmas below, in which I discussed some of those classics like A Christmas Carol and A Christmas Memory by Truman Capote, and even Christmas with Anne by my favorite author, Ella Montgomery. So grab your favorite beverage as I discuss my new holiday TBR. So I've talked about how I have been reading the Lord of the Rings trilogy for the first time this year. I am currently on Two Towers at the moment, enjoying the heck out of it. I am doing a lot of my Christmas crafting at the same time that I am listening to the audiobook of Two Towers, narrated by Phil Dragish, by the way. And again, I just love J.R.R. Tolkien, but I thought it would also be really interesting to read this classic collection of letters that he wrote to his children. So Letters from Father Christmas by J.R.R. Tolkien. And this book was completely new to me. I first heard about it last year. This edition, published by Hootland Mifflin, was published last year. It's absolutely stunning. I promise I will give you some close-up shots because it is so beautiful. If you're new to this Letters from Father Christmas like I am, basically what J.R.R. Tolkien did was when his son John, his oldest son John, was 3 years old, he started writing letters to his son, pretending that he was Father Christmas. And at first the letters were very basic and very easy, but then as John grew and his other children, Michael and Christopher and Priscilla, as they were all growing up, the letters from Father Christmas and Mr. Polar Bear, they got really detailed, and this whole narrative about the North Pole started. And you know J.R.R. Tolkien, he's just such a gifted storyteller, and he cannot help himself. So he ends up creating this whole language and handwriting system for the polar bear, and then Father Christmas has his own handwriting, and then he even creates a story all about goblins that live in these ice caves, and then of course the goblins have their own alphabet as well. So I think if you are a fan of Tolkien, you will absolutely adore this. However, I just wanted to put it out there, you do not have to be a fan of Lord of the Rings to appreciate this. This is exclusively kind of a Christmassy story for children. So I know a lot of families like to read this every holiday season, and then every night before the kids go to bed, they'll read like one letter from Father Christmas each night as they build up to Christmas. I think that's a great way to approach this book. Again, don't have to be a fan of Lord of the Rings, but if you are, I also think you will appreciate this because he just, again, builds this whole narrative and this whole world just like he does with Lord of the Rings. Love this. This is so fantastic, and I was reading it yesterday just kind of over a cup of coffee and perusing it, and it just really made me feel like Christmas was happening. Like I'm feeling the holiday spirit now because of this book. This one is so beautiful and just a perfect gift for a lot of people. Perfect gift for children, for adults, fantasy lovers, and just people like me that love classics. Speaking of classics and British children's authors, the next book that I'd like to recommend is Aunt Sass, Christmas Stories by P.L. Travers. And again, of course, P.L. Travers is the author of Mary Poppins. I am a huge fan of Mary Poppins, and both the Disney version, which I love, one of my all-time favorite movies, but I also really appreciate the books as well, because if you've read Mary Poppins, you know that the character of Mary Poppins is a little meaner and gruff and kind of a sourpuss in the books compared to Julie Andrews in the movies. So this is not really a collection of Christmas stories about Aunt Sass. What it is P.L. Travers at Christmas time, she wrote these stories about her childhood growing up in Australia and all these different characters that she knew as Christmas gifts to family and friends. I think you'll be disappointed if you're expecting these to be holiday stories because they're not, but these are more like Christmas gifts to family and friends. I think a lot of Mary Poppins fans would love this like me because the title story, Aunt Sass, is basically loosed on P.L. Travers' real aunt, her great aunt Ellie, I believe, who was the inspiration for Mary Poppins. I read Aunt Sass this morning. I loved it. There are some really sweet illustrations in this as well. This is a nice naked hardback, just a really nice gift for people like me, especially that love children's classics. And if you are a fan of Mary Poppins, you'll love this because the story about Aunt Sass is so hilarious. She is exactly like Mary Poppins. She is very cantankerous and she has a tough exterior, but a heart of gold. I love that story and I can't wait to read the next two in this collection as well. This next one I am very excited about as well, and that is Nutcracked by Susan Adrian. And we are again going to see the Nutcracker this year. I'm so excited that theaters are opening back up and symphonies and ballet. I'm going to so many shows this Christmas season to kind of make up for what I missed last year. And to be honest, I have not seen the Nutcracker since I was a teenager. So the whole family is going to go this weekend. We're really excited. And this book is a really famous middle grade book set for this time of year. I haven't heard many people talk about it, which is why I thought I would discuss it today. It sounds absolutely adorable. It's about a little girl named Georgie, and she is really excited because she has just gotten the lead as Clara in the Nutcracker ballet. And so as she's auditioning and she's performing with the Nutcracker, she gets whisked away to this fantasy world and she has to save the day. And I read the first few pages. It's very sweet. It's adorable. It's a little action-packed as well with the Mouse King and things like that. And I cannot wait to read it this week and then go see the Nutcracker next weekend. It's gonna be so much fun. Speaking of fun middle grade Christmas books, the next one I have is a Nancy Drew Christmas by Carolyn, Keene. And I'm a huge fan of Nancy Drew. I've mentioned it a couple times. I mentioned it in my nonfiction November video all about Girl Sleuth, which tells the history of Nancy Drew. And someday I will show my collection. I think that is one of my 2022 goals. So just bear with me because I'm going to go through that whole collection and explain all the different Nancy Drew editions and formats. This Christmas story, though, is really unique because I don't think I've ever seen a Christmas Nancy Drew story before. And I need to go back and do my research because I'm sure that there are more that exist out there and there's more Nancy Drew mysteries that are set at Christmas. But this one is exclusively a Christmas story. So when I saw it at the store, I was like, yes, I need to have that. I need that in my collection. And this is part of the new latest installment of Nancy Drew, which is the Nancy Drew Diaries. I believe Nancy Drew is just a little bit younger in the Nancy Drew Diaries. I've only read a couple. She's more like 12 or 13. She's not quite 16 dating boys and driving her sports car. She's more of like having adventures with Bess and George. Really love this series, and this one takes place at a ski resort when Nancy Drew goes on Christmas vacation with her father, Carson Drew, and they get entangled at a mystery, of course, at the ski resort, and Nancy has to save the day. So again, looking forward to reading this one. And a lot of people ask me, do you still read Nancy Drew? And heck yeah. And this type of story set at Christmas is something that I definitely will be reading this year. Love it. And the last children's book that I picked up for this holiday TBR is, of course, The Christmas Pig by none other than J.K. Rowling. And when I saw this at the bookstore, you mean J.K. Rowling, author of Harry Potter, wrote a story set at Christmas about a Christmas pig? Hello, yes, sign me up. And you guys, I know we're not supposed to like J.K. Rowling right now, but I still like her. This woman basically was my childhood. I grew up loving Harry Potter, and I've totally forgiven her for some of the comments she made last year. I really was happy that people like Daniel Radcliffe stood up for her. And she also famously donated a lot of her proceeds from her last children's book, Ichabod, to the COVID-19 relief funds. And I'm so happy that she wrote this new children's Christmas story about a Christmas pig. I did have a chance to go through it last night and read a few chapters, and I would say that this is definitely for younger audiences than Harry Potter. This might be a really nice one to introduce kids to J.K. Rowling's writing style, especially if you're a parent or a teacher that really wants kids to get into Harry Potter. This is a nice one. It is about a little boy named Jack and his little little stuffed toy pig, and then the pig gets lost. And so he ends up teaming up with the Christmas pig, and he goes into this like fantasy world, the land of the lost, with a compass and a lunchbox. So I'm getting very Brave Little Toaster vibes. And he goes into the land of the lost to kind of find his stuffed animal, learn all these lessons about life and Christmas. It is all good. It also has some beautiful illustrations by Jim Field. Loving this, can't wait to read it, and so happy that J.K. Rowling is writing children's books again that are outside of the Harry Potter universe. Love it. Okie dokie. So in addition to some middle grade, I do enjoy an occasional YA. In fact, I read a lot of YA, surprisingly, this year, a lot of good YA. I recently joined a YA book club, and they asked us all to kind of pick out a story for the holidays. They did not pick this one, but I found it at Barnes & Noble, and I thought this one sounded adorable, so I'm still going to read it. Who to them? Anyways, this one is called All I Want for Christmas by Wendy, Loggia. And it is just, again, a very cheesy, romantic Christmas story. So think Hallmark movie. I'll just go ahead and read the back of it because it totally enticed me. So maybe it will entice some of you out there as well. And so Bailey Briggs is counting down the days to Christmas. She lives for holiday music, baking cookies, going on snowy sleigh rides, and wearing her light-up reindeer ears to work at Winslow's bookstore. So I was so excited she works at a bookstore. But all she really wants this year is the one thing she doesn't have, someone special to kiss under the mistletoe. And she's 100% certain that that someone isn't Jacob Marley, athlete, player, and of questionable taste in girlfriends, and that Charlie, the mysterious stranger with the British accent, is the romantic lead of her dreams. Is she right? This will be a December to remember. So it sounds really cute. And of course, I have a feeling she's going to hook up with Jacob Marley, but I'm very excited to see what Charlie is like as well. So I like those subtle nods to the Christmas Carol. And again, this is stuff that I don't normally read throughout the year, so I give myself full permission to read these cheesy books in December. Moving on to some adult cheesy Hallmark reads. The next book that I want to read this Christmas season is the Wish Book Christmas by Lynn Austin. And I believe Lynn Austin is mainly a Christian writer, so she writes a lot of those Christian love stories, historical love stories, that type of thing. This one though, I saw at the bookstore, and look at that cover. I just love the whole vintage vibe of that cover with the children and the Christmas tree and the 1950s aesthetic. And then I read the blurb on the back. It is about two best friends, Audrey Barrett and Eve Dawson, who are celebrating Christmas in post-war America during the 1950s. And I believe their husbands are still on the front, or they're still over in Europe or something. And so they're raising these two little 5-year-old boys by themselves in America. And the boys are obsessed with the Sears Roebuck Christmas catalog. And that just sounded hilarious to me and like so much fun. I stood at the bookstore and I kind of just read the first chapter, and the whole environment was a lot of fun. The women, it starts off, it's snowing, they're going home, it's the holidays. The kids are obsessed with the Christmas catalog, the Sears catalog. And I think this one sounds like a lot of fun, so I decided to go ahead and purchase it. And yeah, again, sounds like a very Hallmark movie type of situation, but I like that Lynn Austin does write historical fiction because I do love history and I love the 1950s. Also, when I was growing up, I am not old enough to remember the Sears catalog, of course. I'm sure my parents, especially my dad, can remember it. But I do remember like the Toys R Us catalog, and it's sad because so many of those stores are closing now. I also remember the JCPenney Christmas catalog and how we just circled all the things we wanted for Christmas, me and my brother, like things like Super Soakers and Beanie Babies and Barbies and Polly Pockets and things like that. And I think the point of the story is the two young mothers are trying to teach the little boys about the real meaning of Christmas. It's not about materialism, of course, although it is. It's about the Christmas spirit and family and friends. I'm really excited about this one as well. And the last adult Christmassy book that I plan to read this year is The Women in Black by Madeleine St. John. This book has been on my TBR for quite some time. I think it originally came out in the 90s. It's also giving me very Mrs. Maisel vibes. I absolutely love that television show. And very similar to Miss Maisel, it's about a group of women during the 1950s that work at a big department store in the women's frock dress section, I believe, and except this one is set in Australia. So the unique thing about it, it's set in Australia during the 1950s in an Australian department store. I do believe that they did turn this one into a movie as well, so I'm really looking forward to seeing the movie. Some people prefer the book, some people prefer the movie, so I'll give you my opinions at the end of the month. But I don't think it's very super Christmassy. I think it's just set during the holidays. All these women are working at this department store during the Christmas season, during the Christmas rush, and they all come from all walks of life. So of course there's some older women who are married and have kids, and then there's some younger women who are dating, and then one girl is freshly out of college and this is her very first job. It sounds like a lot of fun, and the blurb on the front says, "The book I most often give as a gift to cheer people up." So that won me over. I am really excited about the women in black. Thank you everyone for joining me for my holiday TBR. I'm so excited to read all these Christmassy stories. Again, I love middle grade. This time of year just gives me permission to take a deep dive into my love for children authors and middle grade, and of course some of those cheesy Hallmark movie types of books. I'll get back to my classics in January, so stay with me. But one that I do recommend for everyone, especially classics lovers, is The Father Christmas Letters by J.R.R. Tolkien. That book is beautiful, it's fantastic. I think it will appeal to many readers. I think it's a gift that you can just confidently give to a lot of people, so highly recommend that book. It's absolutely beautiful. Thank you everyone, and happy holidays.